Hey, what's up? I'm Adam. If you're new and if you're returning, then you know what's good. Today I want to share some of the things I like to do when I start to feel stuck or unmotivated, uninspired, and ultimately like I'm not progressing towards my goals. The really interesting thing is that with any journey that you're on, whether it be a fitness journey, a finance journey, the motivation and the momentum you have fluctuate, right? Like think about the beginning of the year when you first write down your goals and the energy's flowing and you feel like anything's possible in that moment. And then a few weeks later or a few months later, it kind of tails off and you start to feel a little bit like, meh, okay, I guess, or things start to feel really hard, those same tasks. And whilst ultimately long-term success or even fulfillment towards a journey requires a level of consistency and discipline and ultimately routines, that doesn't mean that we can't inject things into those systems that we create to revive, the feelings we have, to feel motivated again, to feel inspired again, and like we are progressing towards ultimately where we want to go. So that's what I want to talk about in this video. Let's just get into it. So one of the things I like to do when I start to feel like this, stuck, unmotivated, uninspired, is I like to remove myself from my usual physical environment. It's no surprise that space impacts the way we experience life. I literally studied geography for 3 years at university and learned the ways that we as humans interact with space, but also how space interacts with us, right? Like the effect in both directions. And so once you grasp just how much space can impact pretty much your perspective and outlook of life, you can start to use it to your advantage. And when I talk about space here, I'm talking from potentially the very minute, like the organization of your desk, to the room you're in, like your bedroom, to your apartment, to the building you're in, to your local community, the city, even the country that you're in. All of these spaces will impact you and how you're feeling, and also your perception of yourself relative to your journey or wherever you're trying to get to or what you're trying to achieve and feel. And there's real power in moving yourself between spaces to achieve certain goals, right? It's why you may get up from your desk at some point and take a walk, or maybe at lunchtime you walk in the park, and there's that change in environment sets off a different experience, all right? And sometimes you can come back to your desk and thinking, wow, there's so much going on in my mind, like I feel so much better. But it doesn't necessarily have to be on a day-by-day basis like that. It could be you take a day off work or on the weekend and you get on a bus, a train, or you drive out to something that's different. If you live in a city, perhaps you go into an open space, right, and enjoy everything that has to offer and allow yourself to experience this space and the things within it and the people within it. But it can also be travel on a bigger scale, like getting out the country. Unsurprisingly, I am a big advocate of travel. If you've been on my channel a while, this won't surprise you. And I've always prioritized travel over stuff. I've mentioned it in other videos, but I think what you reap from travel and that experience almost will always surpass what you can get from stuff. But I do like things as well. Anyway, I get distracted. And one experience I do draw on quite a bit is when I traveled to the Asian continent for the first time. I went to Thailand, Vietnam, Bali, and Japan. And I'd just come out of university this time. I just graduated, and it was a really important experience for me, like removing myself from where I'd been, well, pretty much my whole life, London, and then obviously the university setting, and seeing what the rest of the world had to offer, or what this particular part of the world had to offer. These countries, the cities that I visited, was really enriching and really inspiring and motivating. So when I came back, I could pour that back into what it was I was trying to achieve, and I could let that even impact my day-to-day space, right? I could pick and choose things that I learned from being around certain people, from seeing certain constructs, right? Even the way the spaces are designed in different countries varies, and you can take that home and embed into your own space what works and what doesn't. Another reason I think this is really important is because I see a recurring theme when people reach out to me and explain that they're feeling a certain way. And it's actually the reason why I created my coaching program the way I did, Beyond the Box, because there was this element of feeling boxed in, feeling like you are restricted or confined to a space. And that physical space happened to impact your mental space, unsurprisingly. And so yeah, this is a key thing that I would recommend to anyone. Again, it doesn't have to be big 7-week holiday or whatever it is. It can just be going out for the day. It can just be a walk in the park at lunchtime. It can just be, a day trip to somewhere that you're not usually. It can be a weekend trip to a cabin. It can be a few weeks or few months. Another thing I like to do when I'm starting to feel stuck and unmotivated, uninspired, is I actually like to audit my online environment. If we accept that our physical environment can largely impact how we feel and how we see ourselves relative to our journeys and what we're experiencing, then the same can be true of our online environment, if not more so due to the sheer hours we spend on like social media platforms like Instagram, things like TikTok, YouTube, all of these sorts of platforms. And it's all in good saying that I'm just never going to be on social media again and I have no interest in it, and that's cool. But I think there's value to be extracted from social media platforms, like whether it be entertainment, whether it be what you learn. And then so like any tool, then it becomes about using it to your advantage versus allowing it to work against you. And this is where cultivating that online environment is really important. It's so funny because I was reflecting on some of the words that are used in social media and why I think they actually are really accurate. I'll give an example, like home, your home page. In the same way we spoke about how your home and the setup will impact you in the first point, the same can be true of your home page online, like what you see consistently, like what the community that you're attached to looks like, and how that again will affect your levels potentially of motivation, how it will affect your levels of inspiration, and how it affects how you perceive yourself. Also things like your feed, like what are you being fed, what are you ingesting, like mentally, what are you taking in? And your explore page, like what are you allowing yourself to explore, what are you exposed to? These words are there for a reason, and I don't think a lot of us, myself included, really think about sometimes just how much of an impact this is having on how we feel about our wider experience of life. It may mean that you need to search for different videos into YouTube, you may need to start interacting with different accounts. Often the algorithm, well, it is responding to what you are watching, what you are interacting with. And so if you don't change those sorts of behaviors, then you can't expect your environment to reflect that either, especially online. So yeah, think about who you're searching on, who you're watching, what type of content you're watching, what type of images you're clicking on, videos, and types of creators that you're again interacting with, and see how changing that up can impact your levels of inspiration and motivation and so forth. The third thing I like to do when I'm starting to feel like this, unmotivated, uninspired, is I actually like to review my routines and my systems that are in place and how they relate to my goals. One thing I learned is that it's okay to go back and refine things, amend things, change things, right? Like just because you were at the beginning of the year that you was going to achieve X goal by doing, you know, A, B, C, that doesn't mean you can't come back and refine your systems, your routines, or even the goals themselves. You may learn more about yourself, may learn more about how to achieve certain things. You may pick up tools, skills, knowledge that means that actually this may not be the most optimal routine or system for me. And so you may be feeling unmotivated or like you're not progressing or even uninspired because the system you've cultivated for yourself isn't optimal. It isn't working for you. So if you find that that's the case, go back, review it. And if you need to make changes, make changes. It's okay. That is actually half of the point, like setting goals and accepting that things can change along the way. And this is where I think it's important not to get too attached to the end goal and allow a degree of flexibility. That being said, there will be times when you do this review of your goals and your systems and realize, actually, I am progressing. And even though I'm not on some crazy high right now, I am actually seeing progress. And this may just be a time where I've just got to stick it out and, you know, bite the bullet and keep going. As the final thing I like to do when I'm feeling stuck, unmotivated, uninspired, is I like to pursue activities that involve me moving, thinking, behaving in a different way to what I'm used to, right? One example of this is photography. I hadn't really explored visual arts in this way in terms of still images and videography to some extent, but not so much. And I wanted to explore this activity for that reason. I wanted to force myself to think about things in a different way, right? Think about myself, the subject, the setting, my actual equipment, all of these things. Each time you go out and take a photo or take a series of photos, you learn something, even if it's just about the environment that you're in, right? And every time you do something that requires you to think in a different way and behave in a different way, you carry that with you over into different experiences. And that can be really valuable. Not only can you draw inspiration from these things and, you know, deal with you feeling uninspired, and unmotivated, but you can actually pick up skills and learn things that can help in your wider journey again, as well as actually just enjoying the activity. Dance is another example of this. It's something that I want to get back into. I don't know if I've spoken about it on this channel, but I actually did contemporary dance for 9 years. And the act of moving one's body in a certain way and the mind and body connect was something that made me feel motivated, excited. The energy that flowed from that activity radiated into other areas of my life, right? In the same way I've spoken about how lifting and training at the gym has impacted not just my physique, but my discipline and so many other elements of my life. So switching up what you do in terms of activity can be really helpful if you're starting to feel stagnant and stuck and just like, day in, day out, same thing. And so that's it. Those are some of the things I like to do when I'm feeling unmotivated, uninspired, and a little bit stuck. There are other times where the reality is you've just got to get through it. Like sometimes things are hard, but they're part of a goal. Like they're part of a system that you've cultivated to get to a goal, right? Or to embark on a journey. And in which case, you may just not feel all that great at this point. That's why discipline is probably more important than motivation. That doesn't mean you can't spice things up and jazz things up a little bit. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you in the next one.